Let me ask you about this call to Amazon founder Jeff Bezos this week in response to a report that Amazon was going to display tariff costs next to product prices. Are you going to punish CEOs who increase their prices because of tariffs?
Well, is now going to be displaying how much of an item's cost is derived from tariffs.
And the question, the idea that this shows factually that it is American consumers who pay the cost of tariffs, not the Chinese or any other foreign government, seemed to be the thing that set off the president.
One policy move almost rocked the foundations of the biggest online marketplace in America in April 2025. Amazon found itself facing an existential crisis when Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs increased by 10% on almost all imports and by an astounding 145% on Chinese goods. The math stopped adding up for a business that was founded on the promise of quick delivery and inexpensive rates. According to estimates, import prices for electronics alone may increase by much to 25%, cutting into profit margins and jeopardizing the business strategy that allowed Amazon to control more than 40% of U.S. e-commerce. Within weeks following the company's second quarter earnings announcement, investors started to feel uneasy. The more than 3% decline in Amazon's stock raised concerns about how long the corporation could withstand the shock. Was this the prelude of a desperate gamble that would reshape global supply systems, or was it the start of a steady unraveling? Remember to use the like button before we begin. A simple like helps spread the word about this film to more people who should watch it. However, Amazon's difficulties were only one aspect of the situation. Millions of American households silently took the fallout as the corporation frantically tried to protect its dominion. Between January and June 2025, retail prices for over 1,400 Chinese-made products sold on Amazon increased by an average of 2.6%, which was almost twice as fast as core inflation. That increase resulted in actual hardship at the register for families who were already struggling due to high borrowing rates and stagnant incomes. It was not a theoretical impact. Within days of the tariff announcement in April, companies such as Anker, which are well known for their reasonably priced chargers and devices, increased the prices of over 120 items by up to 18%. The categories that were most necessary for day-to-day living, such as office supplies, clothes, and kitchenware, experienced the biggest rises. A phone cord, a set of kitchen utensils, or even a child's new shoes, things that used to feel like routine, now became deliberate purchases. Working-class families may have to pay hundreds or possibly thousands of dollars more annually, according to analysts, simply to maintain the same level of living. Ordinary customers were the quiet victims of protectionism, forced to abruptly strain their budgets to the limit, rather than boardrooms or corporate strategists. Are you still here? To ensure that you don't miss the next thing, click the subscribe button. Amazon was forced to take action due to growing consumer ire and waning investor confidence. Numerous commentators characterized the company's recent restructuring as the most rapid and forceful in its history. Reassigning supply chain contracts worth over $13 billion in less than 2 months destroyed years of reliance on Chinese manufacturing and nearly immediately rebuilt a new backbone. Vietnam, Mexico, and India turned out to be the surprising cornerstones of this survival tactic. With the weight of Amazon's pledge to provide speed and cost, factories and logistical networks in these nations abruptly become lifelines. Mexico became a crucial hub immediately across the U.S. border in 2025 as a result of a more than one-third increase in Amazon-related logistics activities. Electronics, textiles, and home products headed for American markets all experienced double-digit increases in Vietnam. As shipments from Shenzhen and Guangzhou were replaced by orders from Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, what had previously been a minor actor in Amazon's ecosystem started to assume a significant role. India took a similar route, growing production facilities and industrial parks created especially to meet Amazon's needs. This significant change was not only a business decision, it was a survival gamble. Amazon attempted to demonstrate that it could still control global supply chains despite harsh tariffs by placing a wager on diversification. It was unclear if this risk would be sufficient to protect the business from the more profound economic forces already changing the U.S. However, every action has a backstory, and Amazon's quick international expansion left America's own gates unusually silent. Container traffic, which was vital to U.S. ports, started to decline as it moved to Mexico, India, and Vietnam. According to reports, throughput at Long Beach and Los Angeles, which were once the busiest in the Western Hemisphere, had decreased by more than 20% by the middle of 2025. This drop had an impact well beyond the docks. The math was harsh. According to industry estimates, thousands of jobs are lost for every 10% decrease in container traffic. Workers in warehouses, trucks, and steers are all connected by a network that is based on the assurance of steady flow. These job losses resulted in an increase in unemployment rates and a growing sense of concern in areas that had historically relied on logistics, both in California and throughout the Midwest. Union leaders raised the alarm because they perceived a crisis that few people in Washington appeared prepared to handle. They forewarned of a quiet. Its previous trends. It seemed less likely than ever that the world's goods would consistently reach U.S. ports, something that had previously been taken for granted. The bottleneck at the ports of America was just the start. Within the nation, the retail industry, which is the foundation of consumer spending, began to stutter. Retail sales in the U.S. fell 0.9% from May 2025 to the same month the year before. A decline that surprised a lot of economists. For a country where household consumption accounts for 2/3 of economic activity, both Main Street and Wall Street are shaken by even minor contractions. Families already impacted by with each purchase, growing costs made people more cautious. While tariff-driven costs made daily goods unaffordable, high interest rates restricted credit card usage. The small companies that used to flourish on Amazon, known as third-party sellers, reported revenue growth of just 7%, which was less than half of what had been the norm in previous years. Deeper fissures were suggested by the slowing. Even the resilience-focused marketplace was stalling. Amazon wasn't the only place experiencing suffering. The cost of consumer products has increased by double digits, according to warnings from retail behemoths like Walmart and Home Depot. A spike that caused buyers to be cautious of shortages and shelves to be unevenly stocked. In actuality, Americans were receiving warnings about fragility from the very businesses they depended on for stability. There was no doubt about the question hanging over Washington. What chance did smaller players have of surviving if the biggest brands in retail were having trouble? Three nations subtly gained attention while America struggled with growing costs and declining sales. Once viewed as supporting actors in international supply chains, Mexico, India, and Vietnam unexpectedly became the beneficiaries of Amazon's change in strategy. Mexico's exports to the U.S. were predicted to have increased by around 28% in the first quarter of 2025 alone, thanks in large part to Amazon's contract reallocation. It was a veritable jackpot for Mexican logistics companies, manufacturers, and AMTO skiers. India followed suit, revealing 5 new industrial parks that are nearly solely focused on meeting Amazon's growing demand. These facilities, many of which are close to important ports and railroad hubs, established the nation as a crucial component of the new supply chain for the e-commerce behemoth. The impact on local economies was immediate. New factories, new jobs, and a renewed sense that India's place in world trade was real and not just a pipe dream. Vietnam also gained unexpected traction. It broke into the top 5 online suppliers of goods to the U.S. market by the middle of 2025, surpassing South Korea. As Chinese imports shrank, electronics, clothing, and household goods from Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City steadily moved across the Pacific to fill the void. The change, according to analysts, was responsible for millions of new employment in these 3 countries, changing the production landscape in ways that could be long-lasting. It was difficult to overlook the irony. A program intended to safeguard American industry instead sped up the ascent of its rivals, resulting in a new class of global economic winners. The impact of Mexico, India, and Vietnam's ascent extended well beyond Amazon's financial results. What started out as a tariff dispute quickly turned out to be a fundamental change in international trade. Under the guise of making America great again, Trump's protectionist policies unintentionally diminished U.S. influence. Washington gave up some influence over the very trade flows it had previously controlled by shifting production abroad. By the middle of 2026, the United States might lose up to 1/5 of its share of world imports, according to several estimates. In addition to being a financial loss, such a drop would weaken the geopolitical clout that comes with being the largest consumer market in the world. Washington's power to establish trade regulations is undermined when foreign governments and businesses are able to reroute supply lines without going through American ports. Asian rivals were quick to take advantage of the opportunity, ranging from well-established nations like China to up-and-coming centers like Vietnam and India. They increased their bargaining leverage in upcoming trade talks by solidifying their positions in important industries. From a wider perspective, what had previously appeared to be tactical victories for U.S. politics now looked like strategic concessions. The unsettling reality was evident to Washington. Power did not always follow from protectionism. America actually ran the risk of allowing others to rewrite the rules of the global economy by isolating itself. Even if Amazon made it through the first hurricane, survival does not equate to victory. Ultimately, the United States runs the risk of losing the exact game it aimed to control. Domestic consumers are forced to pay more for necessities while seeing their disposable money decline as a result of political aspirations. Jobs that formerly supported communities are slowly disappearing as they are moved to nations with more stable economies. With each new plant, port, and industrial park, rising economies rewrite the trade map, filling the void left by America. It's blatantly ironic. In an attempt to protect itself, the most powerful economy in the world might have expedited its own decline. One more disturbing question remains. What chance do other U.S. industry pillars have to survive in the coming years if Amazon, with all its size and resources, can be driven to the limit? In actuality, this narrative is about more than just one firm or tariffs. It's about a more profound change in the balance of power in the world, where decisions taken in Washington have an impact on the rest of the world and unexpectedly alter American life. What will happen, then, if the same demands are placed on the next industry? Is it agriculture, technology, or even energy? If this video made you think, please like and subscribe to help fund future videos like this one. Thank you.